Hello, family. Hello, world. How is everybody doing? Hope you're having a great day wherever you're located across the world. This is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I'm going to talk to you today about, or evening, wherever you're located, about what's going on in the religious world. It's been a lot with this $2,000 church offering. And I'm going to share a video from Savvy Sav's YouTube channel because she has a lot to say. And I agree for the most part with what she's saying because I know, based on my experience and being around as a baby boomer, not afraid to speak up and speak out, there has been a lot going on. And I shared with you in a previous video that I did with a lot of headlines of what's going on about how religion, does it hinder or help Black progress? And I did this with my son years ago, probably 2014, 15, as I mentioned in the other video, with Jeremiah Kamara, who wrote the book Holy Lockdown. And the subtitle, something to the effect, does the church hinder Black progress? And we're seeing so much now with what's going on in the church. And this went viral with Bishop Marvin Winans. And also, a few weeks ago, we heard about Marvin Sass, both Marvins, how things have just seemed to be getting out of control. And we're supposed to be a Christian nation. And notice I said supposed to be, because with the behavior of some of these pastors, not all, and even some of the congregants, we have to re-examine what Christianity is supposed to be about. And a lot of it, well, I would say all of it stemmed from the root of the founding of America that was supposed to be a Christian nation. So let me, first, let me thank all of my subscribers. Thank you for tuning in. And I've been away, but I'm back and I'm going to be coming to you more frequently now. And please share because this is something that we all need to think about. Give us some food for thought. So please share, give it a like and thumbs up and leave your comments. Let us know what you think. And I'm going to share what Savvy Savs has to say because she really brings a lot of great thoughts. What I would say, and I'm going to give my little perspective and put my little 2 cents in it or however much sense you think that I'm putting into it. But she has a lot to say, and I'm just going to go ahead and share it with you. And I will stop it. I won't stop it too much, but every now and then I might want to make a point on what she's saying. So here we go. Let me go ahead and open it up here so you get the full screen of it. Here we go.
I have had criticism before about the way that some of these pastors go about getting money from the congregation. And recently there was a video that went pretty viral of Pastor Marvin Winans basically telling a woman that the money that she is offering isn't enough in so many ways to speak. Now, we already covered on this show about a year ago when it was Pastor Marvin Shapp who said close the doors and wouldn't allow the congregation to leave until they donated money. Now we have a different Marvin, but this time the person is donating money, but he doesn't think it's enough. So he has a problem with it. And I have some things to say. Marvin Winans, who does come from a prominent gospel family, the Winans, he has a net worth of over $5 million, Let's get into this. Marvin Winans' net worth revealed after he scoffed at his church members' donation. The pastor went viral for telling the member he asked the congregation to give 1,000 plus 1,000. This is Pastor Marvin Winans. Let's continue on. So Marvin Winans is a member of one of the most notable families in gospel music, the Winans. The chart-topping family used their notoriety to spread music and later ministry to the world. After decades of singing, Marvin branched out and created his place of worship, perfecting church in the family's hometown of Detroit, Michigan. I'm going to pause right there. The Winans, like they sang, like there was a brother-sister duo, BB and CC Winans. They sang, they put out albums, like, and I'm talking about like, not like they just made some local songs here and there, but like, no, they put out chart-topping albums. They are very well known in the Black gospel community. So people know about the Winans. This ain't no broke family. Okay? Now, Marvin's church sparked controversy in October 2025 when a video obtained by Baller Alert captured him scolding one of his members, Roberta McCoy, for offering the church $1,000 plus an additional $235, which totals $1,235. I'll get to the video and you'll get to see what he said yourself. The request from Marvin to his church members piqued interest into his own pockets, including his net worth. Here's a look at his finances. Dun, dun, dun. According to Celebrity Net Worth, Marvin's net worth is estimated at $5 million. His impressive net worth stems from his musical prominence, which he began when he and his brothers formed their gospel singing group, the Testimonial Singers. According to the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, the group changed its name to the Winans after they were discovered by gospel artist Andre Crouch, who signed them to Light Records in the early 80s. In 1981, the Winans debuted their first record introducing the Winans. Throughout the 80s and the 90s, the Winans became successful by sticking to their gospel roots while also being unafraid to delve into R&B genre, which eventually put them on Vanessa Bell Armstrong, Anita Baker, and Michael McDonald's radar. Yeah, Michael McDonald. You guys know Michael McDonald? You know the guy that sings like do. What's the song? The one, the guy that came from, I think he's from the Doobie Brothers or something like that. Warren G remade his song. You know,
Yeah, quickly. Michael McDonald also did a song with Patti LaBelle, On My Own, and I believe he is from the Doobie Brothers, so I believe she's correct about that. But I know he did with Patti LaBelle, On My Own. So let's carry on.
the song Regulators? Regulators. He sampled that from that song. I can't forget. There's no love anymore. My parents used to play that song. Can't forget. Things will never be the same again. You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, so some of you guys do know. Yeah, okay, so you know Michael McDonald. Yeah. Okay, cool. So they got on the radar of Michael McDonald, like Anita Baker, Vanessa Bell Armstrong, at that time, you know, really big singers in the secular music industry. Quincy Jones even signed the group to his label, Quest Studios, in the early 90s. Marvin's work with the Winans earned him a Grammy in 1985 for Best Male Soul Gospel Performance for the song Bring Back the Days of Yay and Nay. Okay? All right. So that's important because when you see this video, I mean, I have things to say. This is Marvin Winans here. He goes viral after criticizing a woman and her son in front of the entire church for donating $1,200 instead of $2,000 during a fundraiser. Let's see, I'll put the caption on here so you can see. Here we go.
I, Roberta McCoy, given faith and stand in unity with the vision of perfecting church of sowing this seed of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
Now that's
Pause. Now, this donation is going towards, I guess they're trying to build a new faith center. Okay. So they're trying to build a new faith center. Now that's 1,000 plus 200 something. Okay. Now we're going to listen to this again because I'm going to go off about this because I really do not like when people look down on, how much you have to give.
I, Roberta McCoy, given faith and stand in unity with the vision of perfecting church of sowing this seed of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000,
Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
So she said she's going to work on the other 800. He said, that's not what I asked you to do. Ashura says, bougie pastor. Yeah. Now, here's the problem that I have with this. Okay. Now, some people have said, well, that line was only supposed to be for the people who were given at least 2,000 and da. I don't care. My problem is you have someone standing there who has a net worth of $5 million. Why is he asking the congregation? And apparently, from what I understand, donations were coming in from all over the world. Why is he asking them for all this money to build this new faith center? Anybody? The way that money has been used in these spaces, in my opinion, is absolutely ridiculous. Two, this woman is willing to donate $1,200. So she's like, this is what I have. 1,000 plus another $200. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Most of you don't have $1,000 just to give away like that. Like, it's a lot of money. And to me, I feel like that money should have been put somewhere else. We'll get into that. But the way that he spoke to her, y'all not listening. And she got her son with her in front of the kid.
Now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000,
Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
It's arrogant. And also, why does he need to say that in front of the entire congregation? That's also embarrassing. Tip Critique says the black church is failing black people. We're going to get to that in just a second. Because see, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing, okay? You have a net worth of $5 million. Some of these pastors that are asking people to donate all this money so they can get a second building or another church or another faith center are millionaires. They living in big fancy homes, driving fancy cars, expensive cars. Some of them have private jets. Hello, Cleflo Dollar, Joel Osteen. Some of them have private jets, but they coming to you every Sunday asking you for money. Sunday, Wednesday on Bible study night, and any other activity services that you go through throughout the week. Now, don't get it twisted. I understand that buildings have to be maintained. I do understand that if you have a building, you have a church, whatever facility you have, there are repairs that need to be made. These things have to be maintained. I get it. Okay. What I'm saying is, though, when the pastor living large and he had all these platinum albums that I just told you about, he's a whining. This isn't Pastor, Joe that just started a church at a shopping center 2 years ago. He's a whining. He's loaded. take his own damn money and build a new faith center. You see what I'm saying? That's the problem. That's the problem. He's a millionaire. A lot of these people ain't millionaires. A lot of people in the congregation, a lot of times, they doing the best that they can do. But I remember seeing people donating money to pastors in the church when they didn't have it to pay their bills. I got to pay that light bill, but I need to pay tithes. So it just now, and I look at things. I pay attention to things, especially over the years. When I was little and when I grew up, I paid attention to things. And I'm like, wait a minute now. The pastor is driving a fancy car, Jaguar, Rolls Royce, got blinged out rims, expensive suits, live in a big old house with a pool. And some of the people in the congregation are struggling to pay their rent. That don't seem right. That isn't what the church is supposed to be about. And some of these mega churches have been getting over for years, getting over on people. To me, it comes across as a scam. So I have the same type of feeling I did towards Marvin Shapp, when he told the people that they couldn't leave the church until they donated money. You loaded. People talked about it before. They talked about pimps in the pulpit. And when I look at someone again like Marvin, we talk about pimps in the pulpit or these con artists, etc. You came from a family that, dude, you're famous. You recorded with Quincy Jones.
Real quickly, when she mentioned about this Marvin, the Winans Marvin with the 5 million, the Marvin Sapp has, from what I did my due diligence, he has a net worth of allegedly $4 million, and he wanted to lock the church to get more money from his congregation. And like she said, some of those people just don't have that type of money to give, particularly in Detroit. And she's going to talk about that later. And I have more to say about Detroit when she speaks of that. So let's continue.
You sold multiple albums. Again, you're not just a pastor that started preaching yesterday. But you asking them for money for a new center for what? You could buy that building. That's what really, really bothers me. So you see, a lot of people are talking about this because even there's a number of articles about it. We'll go into a little bit more here. Even BET News covered it, you guys. They're like, uh-oh. Bishop Marvin Winans faces backlash after confronting a church member over a fundraising gift. So we'll go into a little bit here. There he is again. Like I said, dude is loaded. Let's go on a little bit here. Okay. Just want to get past this clip part. This part. Perfecting Church has been raising funds for years to complete a massive worship center. The construction began 2 decades ago, but stalled after the 2008 recession halted financing. So they've been building this for 2 decades. You know what I'm saying? City officials sued in 2023, calling the unfinished building a public eyesore. A new agreement later revised the design with completion expected by 2025. Well, we ain't got that long to go in this year. But the point is, they started building this 2 decades ago. Okay? Now let's see, Eric, can you Google this, Perfecting Church? I want to find out the location because I'm going to make a point. The situation has also drawn comparisons to other church controversies when gospel singer Marvin Sapp faced criticism in August 2024 when footage resurfaced of him requesting $40,000 in donations at a convention and instructing ushers to close the doors. Many of you remember I went through that video. So that was this one here. And Sapp had commented and he said that the order was meant to ensure safety, explaining the movement during collection periods can expose finance teams to risk. Yeah, okay, whatever. This is what he said.
And they understand the cost that is involved. There's 1,000 of you. I said close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. It's 1,000 that's watching online. This is a small seed. If I get 1,000 online to give this, if I get 1,000 in the sanctuary to give this, that's $40,000 tonight. Now, everyone up here, we've all sold and seeded, but I need everyone standing up here with us, with me, to plant a seed of $100. Because again, it costs to sit up here. And this is what I need you to do. If you're giving electronically, or even if you're giving tangibly, I'm gonna have y'all come to the altar and give it, because I need to see 1,000 people moving. Bring them baskets. I want the baskets up here. I want to see the folk. Y'all start moving. Y'all can bring it right now. Come. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people online need to give $20. This is easy.
So that was Marvin Sapp. That's the other Marvin. So Perfecting Church is in Detroit. Right? So that was the other Marvin. You see how they be trying to get money out of people, right? So this church that Marvin Winans, this worship center that he has been building for 2 decades, is in Detroit, one of the poorest cities in the country. Detroit, Michigan, which has closed over 40 schools. As my comrade Rome from RBN said, he watched them close 40 schools in Detroit, Michigan. You in Detroit, Michigan, asking people for $2,000. You've got to be kidding me. 20 years is a scam. And people got to wake up to it. Just because someone is a pastor, that doesn't mean they're telling you to do the right thing. Put the title aside, use brain. And you'll see here, this woman, she came to his defense. There's always one. That service was 2.5 hours long, and people donated from all over the world. That woman got in line for people who sold $2,000 for the building of the new church. That's what he was talking about. But it was a huge success, so we knew the devil would be busy lying. Yeah, I'm sure he probably told you to say that. You know what I'm saying? Who gives a damn? I don't care if she got in the wrong line. I don't care what line she got in. The point is, how you asking people for $2,000? You've been building the same building for 2 decades. And there's no building. This is like Dr. Umar with no school. I don't understand. Sabby confused. Phil Scott also talked about this, and he gave a tip. I think people need to listen to this about where that money should go. Listen to this.
But we as Black people, you know, we talking about delineating and all that. We need to delineate our money, remove our money from this Black church, and put our money in our local communities, helping out, you know, building homes for our people, feeding our people, educating our kids. What if you took that $12 to $13 billion a year and invested into building schools for our children, so they don't have to worry about Connor going over there airing out anything because he's mad today?
The point that Phil Scott is making here, it makes so much sense. All that money that's been poured into this new building for over 2 decades, that is money that should have been put in the community in Detroit. All that money that's being used for that new worship center could have been used to build a new school in Detroit. Could have been used to build housing for people in Detroit. You have a worship center. You were in it right now in the video. People got
Hey, I'm going to stop right here because I want to make a few points. I love what Philip Scott had to say, and I love what Savvy is saying because we have to think. And I mentioned to you earlier about the book written by Jeremiah Kamara, Holy Lockdown. Does the church limit Black progress? And in many ways, it does from my perspective. And I've been around for 74 years. A lot of these podcasters are Gen Xers and Gen Zs and millennials. And I know a lot of you have heard some of you say that some of us baby boomers, we've gotten complacent. We don't have anything to say. We're just sitting back. And that's not true because I love speaking up and speaking out. I did in the studio with my son back in the 2014, did it for a few years, going into the studio in Hollywood, California. And I'm telling you, he's right, she's right. From a righteous perspective, Detroit, do your homework on Detroit. Detroit was pretty much a ghost town almost at one time in the poorest areas of Detroit. And look it up. 2025, 2024, there's still issues with vacancies there. And collectively, why are we building a big church center? You're already in a church, obviously, from the looks of what we can see here. Why not take this money and elevate the Black or the poorest communities in Detroit? Because they're still there, 2025. Look it up. I've looked it up, did my due diligence on it because I like to speak from a factual perspective. And you have all of these dilapidated houses, vacant properties. Why not utilize this money to help rebuild your city and put people to work? Speak about entrepreneurship, what you can do from the churches, and even the pastors can't come together in these churches. That's why we have so many churches on every corner almost. If you go to any Black community, you see a church almost on every corner. The pastors can't even come together. And all of this money, there are billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars. And it has a lot to do with the government because of some type of exemption or whatever. I'll have to do something on that. I'm going to do more due diligence on that when it comes to the Black churches and what they're given in terms of money. But what are we doing with all of this money? What's the use of building a big, beautiful church and it's surrounded by slums? It's happening in LA. I know for a fact because I lived in California and I still live there. And I live in Texas and I see the same thing here in Texas. You can have a big, beautiful church and it's surrounded by dilapidated schools, dilapidated houses. Our children are perishing for a lack of knowledge because they're not going to get that knowledge in the public school system. They're trying to eliminate slavery, period, in America, which is a disgrace to this country. And we have to educate our children how to become entrepreneurs, how to invest our money, how to read, how to do math, the basics. Some of our children are coming out of some of these schools now. They can't even read. They can't write. They can't speak. They can't articulate themselves to even go on a job interview. And what are some of these churches doing with these congregations? That's why a lot of people have stopped going to church and giving their money. And I have a friend of mine who, this is in California, because it's not just in Detroit, it's all over. They were asking for money. And she asked her pastor, this is what she told me. Well, what's going to happen with the money? She said the pastor told her, oh, you don't need to be concerned about that. Why shouldn't you be concerned? Why shouldn't the pastor or the executors of the church the administration, share with the congregation, what are you doing with all this money? How are you helping to elevate the community? Here you are with this big, beautiful church, and you're surrounded by homelessness. You're surrounded by dilapidated schools, dilapidated houses, and that's all over Detroit. It's still happening in 2025. Do the research, you will see. And here they are. And what about these lines? Why do you have to get in a line and showcase what you're giving? If you're giving from the heart, why do you have to come up and get in a line? That's what I would want to know. So we got to think about and use our critical thinking. What are we thinking? And some of these pastors don't care. They're living high on the hog, and their congregation is suffering. And they will tell you, oh, if you give your money, God is going to give it right back to you. And I know another example I can tell you about. I have lots of stories because, like I said, I'm 74. I can give you a lot of stories, personal experiences. Another friend of mine, I've been to their church. This is in California as well. Pastor was telling, oh, you need to give because God is going to give it back to you. This woman gave her last money, had children, a single parent. And she comes out of the church and asks my friend's mother, can she give her or loan her some money to go and get her children some food? But you're going to give your last money. Pastors, you need to do better. Not all of you, but some of you, because this greed is killing us within the religious sector. And that's why I tell anybody, I am a spiritual person, believing in God the Almighty, the Most High, Jesus Christ, however, not that white blue-eyed blonde that many churches hang on their wall and many of us hang up in our house, because that's not how Jesus Christ is depicted in the Bible. And thank God I had a mother who passed away at 92 in 2015 who did not teach us that. She would not hang that blue-eyed blonde in her house. And I learned a lot from my mother. She was ahead of her time, passing away at the age of 92. However, we got a lot of discernment and education from both parents, my mother and my father, even though they were divorced. I learned from both. My father had a third grade education. However, he could build a car. He never bought a new car, and his cars always ran like brand new cars. God has given all of us some type of skill set that we can utilize to become entrepreneurs or partnership with somebody, that be a silent partner. It's so many ways. And these churches need to start teaching financial literacy to our people because we are perishing for lack of knowledge. So let's get back to the video, but I wanted to share that because Philip Scott, I've been saying this for years. This is nothing new to me, but I'm glad that the younger generations now are speaking up and speaking out and sharing knowledge, insight, positive knowledge, not that food talk, as my grandmother would call, that so many of these younger podcasters are out here just sharing a bunch of food talk just to make money. And we need to stop listening to those and start listening to sensible podcasters that are giving you knowledge that's going to elevate you. And this is what I'm hearing from these two here. They are either Gen Xers or millennials. And that's what we need. We need these type of young people to come out and speak up and speak out. And it's not all pastors, but it's a good majority of them because of greed. And they're living high on the hog. So let's finish. Let's hear some more.
It's too much money being spent going to these churches. Oh, knew this, knew that. Pastor got new big house. You still broke. Instead of putting that in the community. Now people say, well, church is something that serves the community. No, not really, because everybody don't go to church. Stop it. Kids have to go to school. People need a roof over their head. That money should be put into the community for the people, homes, schools, recreation centers. Why not use the money to build Detroit, to build up Detroit with your own money so that investors don't keep coming in, taking things out? It was very painful to me to see that woman with 1,000. The fact that she had that to give, and with the little nasty little attitude that he had, see, y'all not listening. First of all, look, I don't care how many damn albums you sold, okay? All right? I don't care how many albums you sold. When you asking people for money, you come with some tact first. And then two, you should be happy for what people can give. I don't care what line she got into. I can't even believe it's been a while. I can't even believe some of these mega churches are now asking for $2,000 donations. What is going on? You don't need a big fancy house to worship. You can worship and praise anywhere. I have watched churches open in these plazas down south where they had the vacant buildings and it was just one room. I've watched people worship in one room. You don't need a big, massive mega church. Some of these pastors get greedy. And then
Let me stop right there. I want to make a point too. We can't pour all the ice water on the pastors either, because some of these congregants, they like to shine. They want to go to a big mega church because it makes them feel good. And we have to speak up and speak out about it. I mean, they're willing, and these are supposed to be highly intelligent people. And I look back on T.D. Jakes' church, who has fallen from grace, so to speak, from my perspective. He has seats where certain people, particularly people like me, and I'm not just an ordinary person, I'm an author, a speaker, and I am an ordinary person, just like everybody else. I take that back. I am an ordinary person. However, God has given me discernment and the talent to be an author, a speaker, a coach. But that doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody else. And just because Oprah walks in or Tyler Perry or some of them walk in, that I'm supposed to get up and give them my seat. It's about being righteous minded and using discernment. And this little boy, I don't know whether it's a son, grandson, or whomever, he's standing there. What kind of example are we setting for our children? And to see this go viral, children are watching this and listening to this. What kind of example? And he was, I think she said arrogant. It was very disrespectful how he handled the situation. And a lot of times, some of these pastors, again, I'm not talking about all pastors, so don't get it twisted. I would think with him being a baby boomer, because he's about 67, like I say, I do my due diligence. And she talked about the other Marvin Sapp. He's about 50, I think he's about 58 or something. I think he's a Gen Xer. Yeah, he's a Gen Xer. And Marvin Winans is a baby boomer. You would think he would have more discernment. However, age does not delineate a discernment, actually, because there are some younger of these Gen Xers and Gen Zs and millennials that have more discernment than some of us baby boomers. So we have to be more discerning, more righteous minded. And that's why I chose this particular video to talk about, because to me, I've heard a lot more and I've seen a lot more videos about this situation. And I really liked this one. And it was coming from more to me of a knowledge perspective of how we spend our money and how we are educated from a spiritual perspective. Because we know all of us need money. We have to have shelter over our heads. We have to have food. Everything is sky high now. And in Detroit, as we've already mentioned, where there's lots of room for growth to elevate the community, as opposed to building a big center so that people can have a showy display. And as the scripture says, some will come in sheep's clothing, but they're wolves on the outside, on the inside, rather. They can come in sheep's clothing. So we have to watch who we're following. And again, I would recommend to read the book by Jeremiah Kamara, Holy Lockdown. Does the church hinder Black progress? Because it's a lot of insight, and I don't agree with everything he has to say because I use my own critical thinking when I listen, and I do my own due diligence research because there's so much information floating around here on social media. Social media can be good, but it can be bad. It depends on who you're listening to and whether you're reading and whether you're doing your own due diligence, utilizing the brain that God gave you, because the scripture in 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind." So let's use that sound mind to discern, because everything a pastor tells you doesn't mean that he's right or she's right. We need to be prayerful and not lean upon our own understanding or what anybody tells us, because that money could be put to use to elevate the community, to educate the children, create schools so that our children can learn our history and be taught from us, because they're not going to get it from the other folks. I have 3 adult children, and believe me, I educated my children about the economic situations within the Black community. So let's continue with Savvy Sav.
They live in really large, and people in the community struggling. Now I'm going to take it another step, because Phil Scott was right about that. But someone else was also right. That was Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. A lot of people familiar with this. Is very long. We are not going to read the whole damn letter. There's this one part I need to highlight. There are many things that are highlighted from this letter that Dr. King wrote. But the part that I'm going to show you, I don't think I've ever seen highlighted. So let me go over here. Eric, can we do Control Find on Type VNC? It'll help me just go straight to it. If we can do that, that'd be great. Thank you. Because we're just going to jump right in. Arch Defender. All right. Let me go down here. Let me put this in here. Here we go. Arch Defender. Because in this letter, Martin Luther King gave another warning. He gave a warning about the church. So often, the contemporary church is weak. So often, the contemporary church is a weak, ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. So often, it is an arch defender of the status quo. Far from being disturbed by the presence of the church, The power structure of the average community is consoled by the church's silent and often even vocal sanction of things as they are. By the judgment of God is upon the church as never before. If today's church does not recapture the sacrificial spirit of the early church, it will lose authenticity, forfeit the loyalty of millions, and be dismissed as an irrelevant social club with no meaning for the 20th century. Every day I meet young people whose disappointment with the church has turned into outright disgust. Martin Luther King warned people in his letter from a Birmingham jail that if the church, and at that point, I'm assuming he was talking about the black church because that's what he was a part of, if they did not change, that they would basically become known as an irrelevant social club. That's what you have today. He goes on to highlight something else here when he says, perhaps I have been too optimistic. Is organized religion too inextricably bound to the status quo to save our nation and the world? Perhaps I must turn my faith to the inner spiritual church, the church within the church. But again, I am thankful to God that some noble souls from the ranks in the struggle, some noble souls from the ranks of organized religion have broken loose from the paralyzing chains of conformity and joined us as active partners in the struggle for freedom. They have left their secure congregations and walked the streets of Albany, Georgia with us. They have gone down the highways of the South on torturous rides for freedom. Yes, they have gone to jail with us, but some have been dismissed from their churches, have lost the support of their bishops and fellow ministers, but they have acted in the faith that right defeated is stronger than evil triumphant. The point that MLK makes here is that the church, I guess even back then in his time, was starting to lose its purpose. It was starting to lose its presence within the activist community, within the organizing community. And to his point, if they didn't change the way they were doing things, they would just end up becoming a social club. That's what you see today. These pastors asking for $2,000 here and there so they can build a new worship center when you already got one that you in and you worth $5 million. These pastors flying on these private jets while the congregation is reaching through their purses, trying to make sure that they can make their weekly tithe, even if their money at home is tight. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's not equality. That's not godly. And in fact, what you really have is that one person, that pastor at that mega church who's sitting and living at the tippity top, and everybody else in there in the congregation at the bottom. How is that any different from the capitalist system that we live in today outside of the church? Some of these preachers became capitalist. And they're just like, oh, I can make money doing this. And to prove that it has become more of a relevant social club, there was the article, I forgot to post it, but there was the article that I said before too, where the young people, black churches are losing the youth, that the numbers are declining, and for a reason. You know, some of that has to deal with like the whole Israel thing. That's some of it. But another part of it has to do with the fact that a lot of these churches, in particular the mega churches, they just become like capitalist ventures. All you hear is, give me money. Give me money, give me money, give me money. And you living in a fancy house, drive a nice car. So you can't, I mean, it's just a number of things. And then you can't even trust what's said. You know, you still have to, these pastors just be saying anything nowadays. Some of them just want to get on TV. When can I write my next book? TD Jakes is a good example. Joel Osteen is a good example. They found ways to make that profitable. Let me just sell book. Let me have this mega church. You keep giving me money. I keep getting richer, and you guys still at the bottom. What's Christian about that? So I think MOK had a point, and I think that's what happened. Whereas churches at one point used to be like this beacon of, they used to help out the community. Churches were a vessel for mutual aid. Some churches actually been able to save people out of poverty. Like that's kind of what they were known for back in the day. But now it has just become another business model. And here we are. So Marvin, that was, oh my gosh, that's bad. That was bad. And I can think of a number of different ways where that money could be put to use in Detroit instead of building your new worship center that you've been working on for 2 decades. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you see.
Okay, thank you, Sabby, for your clip. I appreciate it, and I'm sharing it with my audience. And I'm going to stop sharing now. I agreed with what you had to say, as well as Philip Scott. And of course, most importantly, Dr. Martin Luther King. And if you will listen to what I had to say with Dr. King prior to his assassination in 1968, he was worried about America. And based on what you just read, he had good reason to be worried about America and the churches because it's too much greed. Greed from every angle. This country, and please check out the video that I did on America is in a crisis, the mental health of America. Check out that video because I give so many headlines on what's going on now that shows that America is mentally ill. We are in an emergency crisis right now in America from the top down. And we need to stop and think about what we are doing as citizens of this country that helps to elevate a lot of the negativity that's going on here. We need some harmony. We need some love. And as I mentioned before, we need to stop being so fearful, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, as 2 Timothy 1:7 says, but a power, love, and a sound mind. Where is our sound mind? So please watch the video that I shared with you where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said he's worried about America back in 19, I don't know whether he said it in 68, but it was prior to his death. And we all should be worried about what's going on in this country, particularly us as Black people, because we're at the bottom economically. We need to be teaching our children our history, elevating our children to become entrepreneurs, to become investors, the stock market, the real estate, so that we won't be begging for crumbs and needing crumbs from the government, because that's all you're going to get. Nothing but crumbs. And that's not to say that we don't deserve reparations, because our forefathers worked under the most severe atrocities, one of the worst disgraces in American history, slavery. And others have been given reparations. The Jewish people have been given reparations from President Obama. If you don't know this stuff, go back and do your research. And that didn't even happen on American soil, the Holocaust. The Holocaust didn't happen on American soil, it happened in Germany. And also the Japanese in concentration camps. They were given reparations by President Reagan. And that was only 5 years, and they didn't go through the atrocities because our ancestors had already built this country when that happened in the 1940, whatever year it was, 40 something. So let's work on elevating our people to a higher level of consciousness because we're perishing for lack of knowledge. And we're often following an unrighteous path rather than a righteous path. So with that said, I think the video has spoken for itself, and I've spoken on my thoughts. I felt it was disrespectful how this was handled, and it's up to him to do what he wishes to do. Past Bishop Marvin Winans in his church, and if his congregants choose to follow how he conducts, because he's not the head of the church. Christ is, according to the scripture, the head of the church. So if his leadership is not pleasing, and why are you there? That's what I asked a friend of mine that told me that her pastor said what the collection was going to be done was none of her concern. If that had been me at that church, that would have been my last time being there. Because if I'm contributing my money, it's my concern what you're doing with it. And we have too much money running through these Black churches. What are they doing with it? Like I said earlier, the pastors can't even come together to collectively do something positive to uplift our communities. Speak with the younger generations to help them understand unity, not to harm one another, not to kill one another. Work together. There's enough money running through our Black hands. I think it's $1 trillion annually in this country. If we work together, we could build together. Dr. Martin Luther King talked about that too, because he was on a different path, probably is the reason he was killed. He was waking up our people. That sitting next to another ethnic group in your school is not what's going to elevate you to a higher level of consciousness. And we know that Black people can do it because we've done it before, and it wasn't just Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, the 1921 bombing where the government participated in it. We can elevate ourselves. And we know when we did it, there were so many Black homes that were destroyed by white, jealous people. And that's not to say that all white people are like that, because there were a few that did come and assist in the civil rights, and some of them lost their lives as a result. I'm speaking from experience. I'm not speaking from what I read or what I heard, because I'm 74, and I'm speaking from experience of what I witnessed and my own witness in the workplace, the housing place. I mean, I have some stories I can tell you about housing. When I built my retirement home here in Texas, what I encountered in California when I moved in a neighborhood in Downey, California, that was in the 40s. Only white people could live there. They didn't want you there unless you were a maid for them or doing something in helping them. That's the only way you could move into that neighborhood. When we bought our house in Downey, California, they had to change the deed restrictions because Black people couldn't live there. So this stuff is not bound to slavery. As you know, it's bound to Jim Crow, the incarceration of Black people. I mean, I know. I've been there and done that. Job discrimination, been there and done that. And it's not just happening in the South. It happened all over. It happens all over. In California, I had to fight through court system to get equality in the workforce. Also here in Texas, the same. It happens all over. It has nothing to do with the demographics that you live in. And we need to teach our children. When we learn our history, probably we can come and unify. And we won't be so quick to kill one another. because we can create our own jobs. We can elevate our children like this. All this money, this man has a $5 million net worth. And the situation that Detroit is still in 2025, 24, 25, where he could be elevating that community with all those properties that the city has said they must be demolished if they haven't already been demolished. That's where that money should be going, to elevate your community. But you're elevating yourselves, many of these pastors. They could care less about their congregants. And I mean, we have to speak it. And we have to help our young people to understand. I felt bad for this young boy standing there, listening to this disrespectful manner, how this was handled, and why you have to stand in a line, and why you got to display what you're giving. So anyhow, I'm done with this podcast. Again, I'm Louise Hicks. Please share. Thank you, Savvy Sav. Thank you, Philip Scott, for your input, because we really need to examine our thinking and use discernment, no matter whether it's your pastor, whoever it is. Everyone deserves respect and not to be humiliated in the public with that type of approach. That's what I'm saying. And again, Louise Hicks here. Please share, share, share. Give it a like. Leave your comments. I'd like to know what you guys have to say, my audience. And I thank you all again for all of your support, the love you've shared to me. And I will be back more often now that I've taken care of some personal things that needed to be done. And I'll probably share some of that with you later on as I go forward in my podcasting. So again, just remember, your power lies within you. Let it loose, because your destiny is your command. Speak up and speak out. Don't be afraid, because God has not given you the spirit of fear. Let your faith be bigger than your fear, and you're going to come out on top. So again, Louise Hicks, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Share, share, share. Give it a like. Leave your comments, thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.